very much go hand in hand together. They really, really do. Now, moving away from this story, guys, I wanted to talk about this. And I've seen this come up this morning, and we're going to go through this together with regard to Humza Yousaf. But essentially, Humza, everybody's favourite, obviously the guy that absolutely hates white people, has came out and launched his new Muslim Impact Forum. States its goals are simply to get more Muslims into positions of power within the United Kingdom. Like we want that. Want to connect wealthy donors with young Muslims to fund their move into politics. And as this user is saying, this is sectarian, dangerous, and should be outlawed. Imagine just going to Pakistan and saying we're going to get more white Christians into positions of power within within Pakistan. It is mental. Look, he's launched this himself. Let's have a little listen to some of the shit that he said during this launch here, Humza Yousaf.
I would say hand on heart now that we are at a tipping point in this country, and it's reflected in other countries as well, where we either try and do something different, to try and self-organize Muslims, to represent ourselves better, to use our resources better, and to influence the countries that we live in better than we have done already. Brother Humza is a relatively rare and unique political talent. Actually, we need many more people like him at the top of government, in every government, in this country, across the 4 nations, and in other governments, that can influence, sit at the top table and make a difference on behalf of the Muslims. I would say hand on heart.
Sit on the top table to make decisions that better represent Muslims. He's also a good leader, apparently, in his eyes. Bullshit. He's a fucking terrible leader, and he's always talking about division. He's talking about all this and sort of division that's created by the far right. He's creating division, and they're trying to get his own people into positions of power that can make decisions represented towards him. Now, if you just go on his X page, you can look at where Humza Yousaf's beliefs and values stand, and where he is as a person and what he believes in. And as they're saying, they're sat at a tipping point and must take power in the UK. This is like a call for like overthrowing the establishment, essentially, to try and indoctrinate it and try and implement their views and beliefs within inside our parliament. This is not even getting the attention it deserves. In this bit, apparently, they make it very clear that the next generation is to take over the country. 50% of Muslims in the UK are under the age of 25, 33% are under the age of 15. Let's have a listen to this bit.
In this country, there are 4 million Muslims, and that number is growing fast. But of those 4 million, 50% are under the age of 25. 1/3 are actually under the age of 15. In this country, there are...
Wowzers. Yeah, so this is who's on the border. I spoke. First Lady of Turkey, Erdogan, Humza Yousaf. I mean, look at all of these. Wow. What's he saying here? They proudly say they have people everywhere.
We have amongst our numbers entrepreneurs, business owners, NGOs, charities, philanthropists, social activists, politicians, media, journalists, and so much more.
So what this is essentially trying to get people who are Muslim into the top positions of power, into politics. Now, I seen once this thing by ballot or bullet. Actually, I seen on social media before, ballot or bullet, in terms of the new way of sort of jihad that is happening in the United Kingdom. I'll just try and find this video again. To be fair, I probably should have better organised it. But essentially, they said by ballot or bullet, we're going to get ourselves into sort of power within the sort of Western countries. Let's have a little look. Ballot or bullet. I'm sure it was a video. Gotta be careful next, because some things just freaking pop up on here without you knowing. You need to be careful. Here we go. This.
Now it's getting through Congress. So before it was by the sword. Now it's getting themselves into parliament and then making laws that act as the sword, the Islamophobia law in Canada, M103.
Yeah.
Muslim Brotherhood.
I find that there are only 2 things which are open to our movements. Ballot or bullet, nothing in between.
I used to say that democracy is haram. Now I say participation in democracy is our jihad. That's our jihad. We're going to fight not through the bullets but the ballots.
Going to the ballot and voting is now an obligatory action, fard ayn. And it is a jihad that is now needs to be done because this is our modern jihad. You can elect a person who wants the sharia.
Because in the United States, what we do know is that in the past election, just this last election, there have been over 800 Muslim candidates running for office.
We may end up with about 50 members of Congress in the next 6 years. That's really the essence of dismantling the system of injustice, is to replace it with the people who represent the Prophet ﷺ.
So, as you can see in their own terms here, it's by the sort of bullet. This was for the Muslim Brotherhood. We have two options how to implement Sharia in America, ballot or bullet, nothing in between. So they've just came out and said this is the new sort of jihad, if you like. And now you're seeing sort of people like Humza Yousaf come out with this new thing. And you hear them publicly saying about wanting to get people into big positions.
Tipping point in this country, and it's reflected in other countries as well, where we either try and do something different to try and self-organize Muslims, to represent ourselves better, to use our resources better, and to influence the countries that we live in better than we have done already. Brother Humza is a relatively rare and unique political talent. Actually, we need many more people like him at the top of government, in every government, in this country, across the 4 nations, and in other governments, that can influence, sit at the top table and make a difference on behalf of.
So influence, sit on the top of the table. Sit on the top of the table. We're seeing this in real time. You know, you just seen the sort of remit from the Muslim Brotherhood that we just showed you in the last video. Now Humza Yousaf launches this, he's a part of this. And this guy is saying that we need to influence more positions of power within the UK. Get more people in political positions. Why? Bonkers. This is happening in real time. I'm interested to see people's thoughts and opinions on this because, again, it's probably not really going to be talked about too much. But, you know, it's in real time that we're seeing this. This is absolute bonkers and really, really scary stuff, actually. Just look at Humza Yousaf's X page and his views will be there for all to see on what he thinks. Remember his famous speech in the sort of Scottish Parliament talking about how many white people were in positions of power within Scotland. Yeah, that's what he's all about. Do let me know your thoughts on this in the live chat, guys. We are going to get to the live chat in a moment. Just got one more story to discuss, and that's with regard to this, actually, funnily enough. A man arrested and released over Manchester synagogue attack is rearrested at the city's airport. So essentially the Manchester terror attack happened. There was the guy who obviously carried it out. However, they arrested one guy on the day there. A man who was arrested and released without charge over the Manchester synagogue attack has been rearrested at the city's airport. So this happened yesterday. The 30-year-old was detained at 12:34 p.m. on Thursday on suspicion of failing to disclose information about an act of terrorism. So bearing in mind, people like Lucy Connolly didn't get bail for Facebook posts or Twitter posts. But this guy, a part of a terrorist attack, was managed to be released, but now has been rearrested again because he didn't disclose information about terrorism. Yeah. The unnamed suspect had been arrested on the 2nd of October on suspicion of the commission, preparation and instigation of acts of terrorism following the terror attack in Manchester last week. Following his arrest at the Manchester airport on Thursday, the man has since been released on bail with conditions. So now in the UK, you have guys that have been released on bail. So he knows about stuff and didn't disclose information with regard to a terrorist attack, which sent 2 Jewish people killed. Obviously, the guys that there, obviously inflicting terror, could have been a whole lot worse as well. And we know that Jihad al-Shami called 999, pledging allegiance to the Islamic State terror group. So they covered that up in terms of the information that they knew. They let the day roll out. They didn't talk about it being Islamic terrorism. They didn't talk about anything to do with Islam with regard to the terror attack, trying to sort of cover it up. And we've seen what the mainstream media have tried to do in terms of speaking about the attack. Now, they rearrested someone because he didn't disclose things about acts of terrorism. And all of a sudden, this guy's released now, again on bail, with conditions. So he's just allowed to cut about again. We really don't learn anything, do we, as a country? We really, really don't. It's super frustrating. But as you can see, there's a clear double standards at play. And there's more information that comes out about this guy as well. You know, had 3 sort of wives, whatnot, obviously calling 999 to pledge allegiance to ISIS, but that information wasn't released after the attack or straight away. And then all of a sudden, yeah, you got tits like Gary Neville coming out and blaming it on middle-aged white men that are creating division. Yeah, Gary, that's really exactly what it is. One absolute bellend. And again, this is why no one has trust in this Labour government. No one has a trust in the establishment, because they're constantly trying to cover up and withhold information that is key.